What's up, my ninjas? I'm Strident, and I'm here with my brother from another mother, Agent O.
What it do?
And we're gonna try to review this Toys R Us exclusive Optimus Prime Evolution pack from Age of Extinction. Man. So this is our second time trying to do this because the first time Little Strident was kind of sabotaging it, but there are more cons than pros when it comes to this set, and it almost feels like there's no reason that in 2014 there would be this many. There's no reason for there to be this many, you know, cons in a Transformers set in this day and age when you have third parties that are blowing this kind of shit out the water. I mean, granted, the price is up there, but the engineering, you know what I'm saying, is blowing them out the water. So overall, the looks of the two figures, they look pretty much like what you would expect. The movie one looks like the movie one with a shitty paint job, and then the classic one looks like an essence of the classy one. The classic one with this vac metal shit that makes him look kind of like part of his body was bought at the dollar store. I mean, that's what I think of when I see that shit. It's the dollar store. You always see shitty figures with shiny paint jobs on them, and that's supposed to catch kids' eyes, you know. And in this case, being this is a re-release, actually both of them are re-releases because the other Evasion Mode Optimus Prime,
this is like the third or fourth version.
Yeah, they did it like 5 or 6 times. Easily, Age of Extinction has been the worst Transformers release ever.
Yeah.
The line ever. It's the worst toy line of Transformers ever. Everything looks like shit. They skimped on paint. They skimped on engineering in some cases. I mean, there's a couple choice figures that obviously have the proper engineering, like that Evasion Mode Optimus Prime. He does become really compact, and he is pretty damn tall.
Yeah.
But overall, ugh.
Yeah, I will admit, as complicated and as funky some of the transformation goes with that figure, they actually pulled some okay things off with it. And I hate the Bayformer movies, and I hate that design. But I'll say they actually did some okay shit with this. But it's not enough for me to warrant paying $40 when each of these figures costed like $14, you know, separately.
Yeah.
You know, it's just one way Hasbro's trying to get over on you. They're skipping on plastic and paint, but then they're upping the cost of everything because, you know, somebody's got to get that yacht money or something.
I know, right? Just get that Skrilla. It's the same shit they were doing with Marvel Legends, and they've done with G.I. Joe until they killed it, which is definitely a thing, which we'll be talking about. But yeah, it's just weird. There was so much room for them to improve on the Classics Prime, and then also improve on the Evasion Mode Optimus Prime, since it's been re-released 5 billion damn times in one line.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they could have easily had this be the best one. He doesn't have the mouthpiece. I mean, I'm going to go into all that shit even in more detail, but I guess let's stick with paint and sculpt. So, the paint is poorly applied in many places. I mean, like, I guess if you weren't a collector and you didn't have any other primes to collect it or to compare him to, you wouldn't see the issues that we're pointing out. So if you're a first time, you know, Transformers collector, you just like the toys and you just like Transformers, you might not even notice what we're talking about. But if you've been collecting for a while, you get customs or you customize, or you know what proper paint coverage is supposed to look like, then you will see the problems with this figure. You know, you'll see the paint problems all over the place because there's hardly any paint, and the little bit of paint that they do put on there is applied so poorly. It's just like, what the fuck? This was a $40 purchase. Are you kidding me? And like I said, you have third parties that they blow them the fuck out of the water, and it's like 2 guys making a damn figure in a 3D printer. That's it.
And it's consistent too, especially with the way they apply the paint.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, considering that you have that kind of competition, Hasbro has competition with their own shit. Literally other people making Hasbro shit, calling it something else, and doing a better job of it than this. There's no excuse. They should be trying to... Every release should be like Generation Springer.
Yeah.
Them trying their best to blow us out of the water. And with Optimus Prime, you'd think by now they'd have it down to a science. And I mean, I guess you could say they do because these things sell. If you look online for these figures, they're going for like what, $60 and up.
Yeah, it's retarded. I would not pay that much money for these figures. I would just wait for them to show up in your store in your area and get it then.
Yeah, and I mean, you're still overpaying, but still it's way less. And it's weird because I didn't have a Classics Prime because I always wanted him, but I missed out on him because I wasn't really worried about Transformers like that because I had Super Fire Convoy. But like, I wanted him so I could get one of those special fancy trailers, the third-party trailers, to go with him. But man, it just doesn't feel worth it enough, you know? When you compare him to, I have a couple other primes, and when you compare him to those other primes, even the paint job just off the bat, choice of plastic looks cheap. Paint job looks cheap. He's really, both of them are, you know, varying sizes, but there's just a overall cheapness to the look of them, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, as the lines advance, you could tell that the quality in the plastic and the painting got shittier.
And it's what they've been doing all across the board. I mean, yeah, they did it. They did it with Marvel Legends. They did it with G.I. Joe first, Marvel Legends second, and now they've moved on to Transformers. I mean, look at the Transformers Prime, Optimus Prime, that deep red color, and then look at the way on the end. Look at the Dark of the Moon Optimus Prime. And I apologize for the crying. My son's losing his mind with his mom, I guess. I don't know. But, like, just look at the difference. I mean, look at the paint job on the, Dark of the Moon Optimus Prime, and how it's like there's a gradation and shit. It looks just like he did in the film, you know? And they didn't go stupid with all this vac metal shit and chrome all over the place. But robot mode, it's just the same shit. It's just cheapness. It's just... I mean, look at him.
Yeah, like when I took this figure out of the package and I started playing around with him, I noticed right away joints were like really loose. Like my right arm on the I guess the Evolution Prime, it's like super slack. Like I can't, if I put the gun in his hand, he's not going to be able to hold it up. It's just completely loose. And I noticed it was a little light, so actually, I mean, I was going to seem nerdy, but I put him on a scale and weighed him.
We're reviewing Transformers toys. It's too late for nerdy.
Yeah, I know, but
we're past nerdy. We're way past nerdy.
But I mean, I weighed them, and they're actually an ounce off. Yeah. You know, because I guess if you mass produce a bunch of these figures and you cut off an ounce of plastic that you used when you originally put out this figure, I guess that's a savings somewhere. Yeah. Not sure how much.
Probably with shipping and distribution.
Yeah,
and shit,
but you could tell like this plastic is a cheaper. It's not. I won't say it's thinner, but if you shine a light to it, you can kind of see through some of the parts. And I'm talking about the red body plastic.
Yeah.
And with the Classics figure, you could tell it was a more durable. It's a darker red, and you can tell it's a stronger plastic.
Yeah, the figure just feels substantial.
Yeah, and those joints are as tight as the day I bought that figure. Mm-hmm. Like when you transform them and you fit, and all the pieces tap into place, and they hold really well. At the Evolution Optimus figure does like almost the exact opposite.
Like an old bootleg.
Yeah, it does. It feels like a knockoff because I bought a knockoff of Ultra Magnus, and it was the crappiest knockoff. I ended up just throwing it away because it was so bad. Like plastic was warped, but when you transformed it, nothing fit the way it should. And this is how the Evolution Optimus kind of feels.
Yeah, they skimped on paint in areas that actually would have given it a little bit more, you know, character. I mean, you see the blaster, the smokestacks blaster. It had silver and black in the original release. It's all black in this one. Not a big deal, but you know, the stripes on the sides of the vehicle mode, as you can see here, this is the Classics one, the original Classics one. It has all that nice, clean paint work.
Yeah, you know? the angles it takes, it helps break up all that red that's on the Evolution, because it just did that plain generic straight stripe and called it a day.
Yeah, it's like here they were trying to show you like this is an update to what you already knew, because the Prime's cab always was all red and didn't have any type of anything going through it, but the the trailer did. The trailer
Yeah.
was silver and it had that blue or red stripe sometimes going through the side with the Autobot logo on the very side. Now, if you have the two things together, it's like the silver turns around and kind of flows through the cab. On this version, just the fucking silver line. That's it. They didn't even give a shit. They're like, we're not even going to do anything kind of stylistic with it. It's just, it's going to look like it's a straight corporate convoy. So they should have called this figure Corporate Convoy. And then like the face, they did the whole light piping thing, but they painted over the light piping for the re-release with yellow so that the eyes would pop. Whereas you can see the other one, the original release, it was dark blue, just like the windshield, just like all the other windows, and you kind of can't see through it. So, well, you can when you apply the light, but I just mean in general, the eyes don't just look like they're glowing, you know?
Yeah, and I think the blue windshield works. To me, it works better than the completely clear windshield, just because it hides the plain interior. Even though they try to give you an essence of a cab interior, but the blue allows you to see some of that detail, but not so much that you're seeing just how, I guess, plain and generic it is.
Yeah, I didn't even notice until you said something that there was a chair and a wheel in there. But on the re-released Classics Prime, you can definitely tell there's shit going on in there, you know? It doesn't look as good as it could, but the darker windshield, like you said, it makes it look more like an Essence properly.
You suck.
And then their faces. There's little details like you can see the yellow vents on his forehead.
And they painted the yellow lights, too.
Yeah, the lights are yellow. And it's like, why did they not do the same exact thing with the lights, at least, on the new Classics, you know, Prime? You would think that some of the basic things would be, you know, would carry over to the new one. I mean, it's 2014. And this was released, the original one was released in like 06. Like, that's just, that doesn't make any sense. There's the silver, you see that on the new one, he's got the silver vents on his forehead, and then he's got the brighter eyes. I don't know, either one works for me.
Yeah, I prefer the silver over the yellow for the vents on his head.
I can't even remember what most of my other ones have, but we'll see them in this video. I don't even, it's a detail I don't really even look at, but, you know, so I guess it could be make or break for some folks. And then, like, you know, side by side, you're just looking at all the details. There's so many little details that just don't work, you know. But then there's a couple things they did better. Like you pointed out the Autobot logo on his shoulder.
Yeah.
That looks good. But it's just plain. They could have done something. In IDW, they usually, when they transform, it usually reveals all these pieces that might be moving around and shit like that. Or like in War for Cybertron, there's like glowy parts, like Tron-ish glowy parts, and, you know, little pieces that move, and they could have, it's there, the detail is there, but they could have painted that shit, you know, the pistons and all that stuff, and they didn't even do anything with that. So it's kind of annoying. I mean, the saving grace is the Autobot logo, because Optimus should have the logo somewhere visible on his one of his shoulders. I don't know. I don't know. It's always going to be like that for me with this, because I was so geeked, because I really was like, now I can go and hunt down one of those G3 trailers. And then, you know, sitting there playing with this cheap-ass figure, I'm like, man, what are people talking about? I watched a bunch of reviews before I picked this thing up. And I was like, you know, hoping to hear something that was going to help me feel better about the purchase. Like I'm not just jumping the gun because it's Optimus, you know what I mean? But, you know, you're talking to someone who, I didn't get my first Optimus Prime until I was a grown-ass man. Because when I was a kid, you could never find him in the stores. So my first Optimus was the freaking MP01. And I got him when he showed up at Target. And he was like $60. And then now I'm going back and I'm getting all these other ones. And I'm like, you know, I almost feel like I could save the money from each of these purchases and just go buy my fucking Toy World Orion and call it a day. I don't have to worry about this shit. Because, like, there's no excuse for shit like this yellow detail that they just chose not to paint on the new one. They didn't paint it yellow, they just painted silver, because they only wanted to use 3 or 4 colors, you know, for the figure. Like,
remember, Hasbro's on a budget.
Yeah, you know what I mean? The freaking, one of the, top 3 toy manufacturers in the world is on a budget. Like, come on now. And I know that toys do have a budget, but the budget is usually not for their billion-dollar sellers. The budget isn't that low that they can't afford like one or two other colors on a figure that is always an anchor for this line, you know? And then you look at what they did in '06, and you look at what they're doing now, and it's like, why? How is it possible for them to be doing so much worse now with all the things going on? All the third parties now that are more accessible, that are doing more insane things. Matter of fact, most of the third parties don't even paint their figures like that. They sculpt all those pieces in different colors and then just attach them to the figure. And these guys can't do the old-fashioned, you know, way of making toys where you just paint them. It's just stupid. The vac metal, I'm sorry, it looks cheap. It just makes the figure look really cheap.
Yeah, in the robot mode, it stands out too much.
He should only have the grill and the bumper.
Yeah. Or, I mean, I don't mind if they had just did the thighs up until where you saw on the original Classics figure, you had the gray thigh,
like the
and then the upper thigh. Yeah, and then you had like the blue continuing down. If they had just broke that up the same way they did it on the original with this vac metal on the Evolution Prime, I think it would have worked out a lot better, and it wouldn't have looked as gaudy. Like your eye is just drawn to Optimus's crotch because it's so damn shiny.
You want to throw a fucking match at it. It's like he's fireproof.
Yeah.
It's asking you to do something. Yeah, I don't like it. I mean, here they kept this simple. This is kind of what he looks like in the comics, where the knee pads have the little yellow lights, because usually that's the back of the, you know, the truck when he transforms. Here on the new one, they gave you more lights.
Yeah, cool. It would have worked better had they applied the paint better.
Yeah,
like, it's kind of shitty, and you can tell where the red overlaps over the yellow
because it's like orange.
Yeah.
It's like an orange red. I don't know. It's weird. I mean, I know some of this is nitpicking, but these are the things that immediately stood out, because on all the previous ones, either they used separate plastics, either they used better paints, and nothing stood out as like an eyesore or as like a you know, being lazy.
Yeah.
Everything was just there. Looking at this, it's just like, man, why did you put thought into some things like those knees, but you didn't do that with the rest of the figure? That's such a tiny detail. They could have actually skimped and let it stay yellow, and I think no one would have been like, why didn't you paint this anything else? Because the original's yellow. You know, here they put silver on his feet. It's poorly applied because you can see blue coming right through it.
Yeah.
But they put silver on his feet, and then they didn't put that kind of thought just to make the blue, to break up the blue, because you have the vents that are the dark gray. Now you have those like on his upper shin.
Yeah.
And then now you have the silver on his feet. And they didn't bother to put that kind of thought into anything else on the figure. And then here we got his big old Cybertronian penis blaster. And you see the silver on it.
Yeah, you can see all the paneling and the seams, and the silver just helps break up all that red.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna see in the next picture, they didn't do anything with the wind vane gun, and it just looks gaudy. You can't see anything when there's light directly on it. Mm-hmm. It just looks cheap, and I don't know,
just super cheap.
Yeah, and it's boring looking.
It's weird too, because like I'm not usually a stickler. Like, I'm a casual Transformers collector. I know a lot of the lore. I'm not as hardcore as you are, but I know a lot of what was supposed to be going on, enough to know that those 4 movies are garbage. You know what I mean? Like, more than enough to know that those are garbage. But you know, I can still appreciate a figure for being a figure. But when there's so many little things, you know. And it's weird. My favorite Transformer is Megatron, and I still look at a Prime and I can see, you know, the things that need to be done better. You know, and I can call a spade because I have a bunch of Primes because I never got them when I was a kid, and it's just, I'm seeing so much bullshit, man. Mm-hmm. Like, it's just so much, and it's just weird that in a lot of reviews people are just like, they immediately defer to the evasion mode Optimus Prime as if it's such a better done figure, and it's only certain things that are done better with that figure than this one. But you know, the choices just look, I mean, you can see from that last picture to this one, it just looks cheap. There's like they strip the color away from him, you know, and like the clear windshields give away all the insides that don't look very super awesome, and then like, you know, the silver, they didn't even cover all of the spots with that silver. They stripped some of that shit, like in his solar plexus and whatnot. The face is cool. I'll give him that. It's still cool.
Yeah, I've always liked that head.
Yeah, it looks good, but it's not on a ball joint. And so many other Transformers come with a head on a ball joint these days. Shit, since the Classics line. So to think about the fact that they didn't even engineer that, they could have re-engineered that now. It'd have been cheaper for them. That way they wouldn't have to use, I don't think, do all the ball joint ones use a screw to take the head off? Because I know I have a couple that you could just... I think certain ones do, but some of them you could just take off.
Yeah, they are. No, they do use a screw.
Yeah.
I know for a fact that not Wheeljack. Cup is on a Cup has a ball joint head.
Because the extra heads that you bought. Yeah. So anyway, my favorite of the regular Prime figures is the Robots in Disguise Prime. It has the most amount of shit that you get so much in the package with him, because the back portion of the fire truck is armor, extra weapons, etc., etc. It takes the place of the trailer. And the figure himself, just basic him, is super substantial, and he's like one of the perfect... He's like almost what the Masterpiece ones are now. That's the size he is, the scale he is. And so he towers over the people he's supposed to. And he just has a heroic look about him. Yes, he has vac metal, but they painted over the vac metal as well. And it doesn't look as cheap and shiny for the sake of being shiny. Like, I mean, just look at it compared to Prime's legs right next to him. It just doesn't look the same. There's a different, like, maybe they used a different type of plastic. I don't know. But whatever they did, it looks more like just shiny paint and less like cheap-ass dollar store vac metal. And little things like the ball jointed feet, like the way the ball jointed head also, so that you can get these kind of tilted, you know, emotive stances and whatnot. I gave him RC's gun from Prime because it just looked like it belonged with him and not with her. It's too big for her. And then even in the show she uses 2 little pistols, so, you know, I've changed that with her. But you can do stuff like that and it actually enhances the look of the character, you know. Yes, his face is kind of a essence of what Prime is supposed to look like, but it's not a poor essence, you know. All the details are there, you know. You can't mistake that this guy is a Prime.
Yeah.
He looks like him, and that's why I dig him the most. So I always compare him to whatever Prime I get, and when I do that here, that one loses 100%. These parts in the back where you see where the grill and the bumper is exactly what I was saying, is that should have been the only, you know, vac metal on this figure. Because it makes sense. They even did that with the Masterpiece. That was the only vac metal on the figure. Everything else was, you know, painted.
Yeah.
And that would have made perfect sense. The light piping. For some odd reason, they chose to use lighter light piping on the new one and then darker one on the old one. And I guess they realized that, you know, the darker one didn't really come through as much, but they also went the extra step of painting his eyes so that, you know, when it catches the light, it actually glows better. That's an improvement. Mm-hmm. That's engineering that I'm talking about. Like those little things that would help make the character, you know, just pop a little bit more, make him look a little bit more. It adds character to him is what I'm saying. The old one, I don't know how they missed that. It was them being cheap, I guess, because the same blue that you see all over the figure. So it didn't work as well, you know. It could have, but it didn't. The little lights on his chest above, like, you know, his, would that be? Technically, they're like his shoulders. On the Classics version, they're fully painted. They look cool, but they didn't paint them on the new one. Like, why would you not do that? It's the same shit.
That's just laziness. It's just pure laziness.
And it makes the toy look so much more like a toy. You know, a lot of times when I see customizers repainting figures, they do. American customizers always do that shitty black wash that doesn't really look right. It looks like you just covered your figure in shit. And when you washed him off, the shit was in all the recesses, so that's what was stuck. they don't understand that, you know, you could do a little bit to make the figures, you know, details go a long way. And like, I'm not a huge fan, like I said, I don't like the Bayformers, but the Dark of the Moon Optimus Prime was a gift. That's the ultimate Optimus Prime with the big butterfly wings and shit. But you look at all the paint and all the details, you have to respect the fact that they actually took the time to make it look as close as they could to what was in the film as far as the base figure. Because most kids, that's what they're probably going to play with. They're going to leave the trailer somewhere else because it's complicated, it's difficult to put on. When I compare this new one to that one, the new one looks like a cheap-ass dollar store knockoff of the actual Prime. And there's no two ways around it. You're looking at, there's no paint variation, there's no washes, there's poor application of paint, there's no variation in plastics, you know what I mean? Little variation in plastics. And then just, you know, little things that they could do, like the gradation on the front of this, the Dark of the Moon Prime, going through all the flames and stuff. That's cool. And that's the major paint application on that figure. But on this one, they just didn't...
They didn't do anything.
They just didn't do anything.
They should have just got rid of the generic blue flames and just put a silver stripe. Like, because I know there's a version of that out there, so that's what they should have just did with this.
That's what I was hoping. And I almost wanted to go get some, like, nail polish remover or something and just sit down and take all that shit off, because it just looks stupid. It looks like a cheap-ass Hot Wheels toy that, like, somehow made it through QC, and they said, oh, yeah, that works. The flames aren't even... I mean, you see how parts are missing because there's, like, a dip in the sculpt. It just... I don't know how people can say this is good in comparison to, you know, what we've gotten past. It's just people being complacent for the sake of being complacent.
Plus, if you look on like the rear wheels, as much as they tried to hide his feet, it just doesn't do the job. I'm sorry. I mean, they tried to sculpt the feet so that when you put it together, it forms that link piece that the trailer sits on.
Yeah.
But I mean, the feet just stand out too much, and it just doesn't. It's just not a good look. I'm sorry.
Look at the comparison. You know, look how much better it looks on the Prime, you know, Optimus versus, you know, this one. You can see they thought about everything on that one.
Yeah.
And it only gets worse when you transform him because his legs are still very limited. He's tall, I'll give you that, but I mean, he's a transformer, so he's kind of contorted to begin with.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have a lot of articulation in his legs. Like, he doesn't have any thigh swivels or anything like that, or ankle swivels. No ball joints in the feet, which they could have done that.
It's very limited in the feet.
Super limited.
And he's got weird articulation in his arms.
Yeah.
Very, very odd. I don't know. It's just not, I don't know. It's just not it's not great in that department.
Wait, let's talk about this gun right here.
I don't know. What's wrong? What's wrong with this gun?
Picture right here. And no one has said anything. I mean, I don't understand why it's always us that have to say this shit. So you don't hold a shotgun by the tip of the handle of the gun. And then there's two different places where he could possibly hold this gun. In the back, you see a trigger guard, and in the front, you see a trigger guard. Why is it they didn't sculpt it so that you could actually put his hands near any of those things?
I don't know. Usually the handle of the gun is the peg, and not the handle and then the peg.
It's just cheap, and like people not paying attention and sleeping on the job. And there's too many of you guys that are like, oh, this is awesome, I love it, it's so cool. Like, you can't always, I mean, if that works for you, I guess you can, because they've made billions of dollars off of this shit. But when others point it out, you can't get mad at us because we're not sleeping. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's just, this is dumb. That's really fucking dumb. Don't give him a gun if you're going to go through that. Or reuse a gun from an older Transformer that you did right. There's enough Optimus Primes out there that they could just reuse an Optimus Prime gun. That's not even the gun he had in the movie.
No, it's not like Hasbro doesn't recycle weapons and, you know, materials anyway.
It's just, oh, man. And then, you know, we could take it a step further, because I could compare this figure to the Dark of the Moon Prime. And the Dark of the Moon Prime, you kind of see all what I'm complaining about kind of done right on this figure. There's paint variation all over the place. There's some variation in plastics. The face, he has his face plate, for God's sake. On the box, they show you the version of Prime from the fourth film, which would be the modern version. And then you get pretty much the version in the film that's there for like 2 seconds.
Yeah, or earlier in the movie version.
It's just sad. It's sad. Then they say 1984 Prime with the other one, and that's the 2006 Prime. It's just, the whole thing reeks of laziness. Now look at the Dark of the Moon Prime versus this guy. Look how much robot you got right there. And I don't remember the classes and all that shit, and I know it's an ultimate figure and all that shit, but...
Yeah, it's probably a Voyager. No, maybe it's a Voyager.
Oh, it's a Voyager?
Yeah.
You still got a lot more figure. You know what I mean? And look at the shoulders, for instance. That's one of the things that stood out to me. These skinny-ass shoulders on this new one. And they could easily have made that.
Skinny-ass arms.
Yeah, like it just doesn't look right. And I know some of it looks closer to what he had in the movie.
Yeah.
But still, I think it's too... He just looks weak.
Yeah, it's just not really I don't know. It never struck me as a great figure or a must-have figure. I have to say though, looking at that Voyager class Prime, that's actually a pretty decent looking figure.
Mm-hmm.
If I was a fan of the films and of those designs, I would definitely have to add that to my collection.
Well, shit, remember the Revenge of the Fallen Voyager class Prime with the hooks?
Yeah.
The hooks in it. That shit was pretty cool too. I was like, man, it looks like the shit in the movie, but this whole line, like I've said it before, it's the worst Transformers line I've ever seen. It's just shitty in every conceivable way. You compare him to Prime from what, a year ago, right? That was like a year or two ago.
Yeah.
The Transformers Prime figure just looks better. You just see all this, like, there's stuff going on there. You've got translucence, you've got, better paint. The coverage is better. You're not seeing the base colors bleeding through. You're seeing really tiny details painted. These legs, they just look like the back of the car unfolded. They don't look like legs now, or like boots or something. They just don't fit. Why are there flames on his feet, but there's no flames on the back of the cab when you transform it?
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't even make sense. But, I'm kind of nitpicking, but at the same time, it's a valid question. Why would you put those kind of things there if they didn't even show up like that in the movie? He wasn't even painted this way in the movie. And it's like, you'd think if they're going to do one that's supposed to be a throwback, make him look as close to the original as possible, which means he shouldn't fucking have flames anywhere.
Plus, I don't know how you can call it evolution when the Classics Prime looks more advanced than the movie Prime.
I know.
It's more of a de-evolution.
Yeah. It's just they've gone backwards in so many ways. And, I wasn't a fan of the design to start with, but, here's a Bayformer, and you're looking at this version of the same character versus the previous picture I just showed you, and that looks way more substantial. They look like legs now. That's the thing about a Transformer. It's got to work on those three basic things. It's got to be a robot, a vehicle, and a puzzle. If any of those things are lacking, then it kind of failed, because that's the goal. The goal is for them to do those three things and do them well, And, Optimus Prime has this particular kind of stature and these proportions, and you see it in the film, and you don't see it so much on the toy.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make sense. But in this toy, you see it. How is it that as time gets better, as time goes forward, and as these companies get better, like the third-party companies getting so much better at making figures that are essentially really expensive knockoffs of Hasbro shit, how is it they can do it so well, and then Hasbro can't do it well? Every release should be like Springer.
Yeah, honestly, I think a lot of those guys that used to work for Hasbro are now working at some of these third parties.
Yeah.
And are making money off of their own designs.
Like, one thing in here, the reason why I even focused on this, where the blue meets the gray, there's a swivel. So you have like a cut so that you can turn his legs. Actually, it's a little bit above that. I'm sorry. So you can get that wide-legged stance where his feet are actually outward instead of just stuck straight or bow-legged or pigeon-toed or whatever it is you want to call the other Prime stance. Which is weird that they even, they would forget such a thing, because a lot of the modern Transformers have a thigh swivel so that you could actually pose them in that heroic stance. You know what I mean? It helps make the figure just look better.
Yeah.
and somehow all that shit's missing. I will say that it's cool on this one. The clear chest piece looks cool. It actually works this time. But the face, oh my god.
And some people prefer a Prime without the face mask. But I was never a fan of his face because you have his nose is way up here and his mouth is all almost down to his chin. I always thought that looked dopey.
Mm-hmm.
Like he had some kind of birth defect or something.
No, he should always look like that. And you know, the fact that they released so many versions of the evasion mode with so many different heads.
Yeah.
Why would you do an evolution 2-pack where we want to see what the two look like side by side? You want to see how the details from the one figure show up on the next figure, and you don't even have the face paint? Like, that doesn't make any sense. It's just, it's not good. And it's funny because I was saying that I was going to start collecting things that I love,
quality.
You know, that are quality, so that I won't have to do these kind of reviews. And then here comes the first thing that I've got since making that, you know, decree, and then ending up having to, you know, completely tear this thing down. It's just not cool. I mean, if you were a kid, I guess it'd be awesome because you wouldn't be looking at those kind of things. But, you know, as an adult collector, I'm just like, no.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, this will be going on eBay soon. I'm not even kidding, not even lying.
Yeah, it's just, and I mean, you know, look at how that looks just like the cover of the freaking, or even the posters for the first 2 movies. Shit, first 3 movies.
Yeah.
You know, and they can't do that again. They can't just reuse the fucking head. Like, you know, I'm not even asking for a lot. I'm just asking for them to be consistent. You couldn't even just somehow, you know, take the existing head and tweak it. That's too much to ask. Look at this one. You know what I mean? Like, that's a pretty dope looking face. And he also has a mode where the face mask is down. You mean to tell me you can't have whoever sculpted that sculpt the face, the proper face for the evasion mode? You know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't make sense. It's them being lazy, and it just shouldn't be. I can't give them props, and I can't see how a lot of these quote-unquote reviewers can give this figure props, you know. And I know I'm being hard on them, but our job is to tell you it's
because so many of those people are just trying to. You're doing a review, but it's not a review. It's just an extended toy commercial.
Yeah, pretty much. I don't know. I hate that. I feel like there's too many reviewers that are inept at actually pulling off a real review. Because if they were, they would tell you what works, and they would also, you know, flash back to what worked before with this particular character by the same company, and, you know, kind of wonder why things don't work. I mean, look at the detailing inside his translucent parts. That works because, once again, what should be inside is obscured, and you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to be like, hey, that doesn't look like.
Plus, the lighting helps it pop out more.
Yeah, it's just a really, 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 I don't know. The new one is a really bad excuse for the new ones, or just a bad, you know, excuse for, you know, getting people's money. I don't like the fact that they went in that direction. So, I mean, look at him even compared to 2 other, you know, the 2 other older figures. It's just, I don't know. It just, it's missing. There's a whole lot missing, you know. And one of them is just pretty much a repaint with better plastic, you know. And he's the figure that's packaged with him as a quote-unquote evolution, and I don't see it. It's just not a very good 2-pack. So all in all, this one is a pass, you know. Go on eBay, search for some Revenge of the Fallen shit, search for some, you know, Dark of the Moon shit. Just ignore this 2-pack.
Or better yet, don't buy any of them, and don't support any of the movies so we can get better Transformer movies.
Yeah, I know, right? Shit. It'd be nice. Or if you did buy it and you realize what I'm saying, but you refuse to say something, you can bow your head like Optimus is doing right here.
Hang your head in shame.
It's just not a good. It's just no. It's not good. In this stage of the game, with so many high quality, you know, things out there, you know, Hasbro is making so many missed steps, and they could, so many wrong steps, that it's strange to me that they make the money that they make and still cry poverty. And it's strange to me that so many of you guys still, support that shit. You got to stop, because that's why they're going to keep giving us this kind of crap. Like I said, these figures exist. They're better figures, they're older figures, and sometimes you can find them for a decent price. So I would keep on the lookout for some of this older shit and just ignore that stuff, or jump on the third-party bandwagon.
Yeah.
Because, where you would get your money's worth. I mean, you're going to spend a whole bunch per figure. In some cases, I still don't see how one figure costs $100 and it just transforms to a robot and a car and back.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, they broke me, because I was adamant against buying third-party figures, and now, I mean, I prefer them to, Hasbro shit.
Well, with the shit they're doing, I can see it. I can see why. But pick and choose which ones. But don't go back to this bullshit. I'm more and more. I'm avoiding Hasbro. Like Marvel Legends, I'm avoiding what they do unless someone points out to me that they're extra awesome. You know what I mean? But I don't know. So you're the Transformers person, so let them have it. I just have ran my mouth enough.
Yeah. I mean, fuck the movie Evasion Mode Optimus Prime. I'm not a fan of. I mean, I was never a fan of any of that shit. So and I didn't buy this 2-pack to get that figure. I was gonna immediately throw it up on eBay, and I'm gonna end up doing that. And as far as this Evolution Optimus, repaint, how do you repaint a figure based on the same mold, and the figure is shittier than the original? Like, posability, it's lacking because of the weak ass joints.
Yeah, the shitty plastic. There's no friction. There's no tightness. Of the joints.
It doesn't hold up together. You transform it, it's loose. There is too much of the vacuum.
Vac metal.
The vac metal. I don't know why I can't get that right. like it's too much of a good thing. Like Stryden said, should have just stuck with the grill and the bumper and left it at that. And I even tried to switch the weapons out, and for some reason with my old ones that are painted, and they don't fit in his hands very well, and it's the same fucking mold, and that's because of the shitty plastic that they're using now. So I'm throwing both of these guys up on eBay and then calling it a day. So keep a lookout, because they're going to be selling for cheaper than if you're going to get them at the store, because I'm not a scalper and I'm not going to try and take advantage of anybody. So if you're looking for this line and you really need it because you can't get the other ones, just look for my eBay sale.
Yeah, I'm just taking mine back. I went to Toys R Us, and Toys R Us they're gouging people more and more these days, and it's kind of frustrating because you just want a decent figure, and if you can't get it, go elsewhere.
Yeah, I would take mine back, but I think I threw away the receipt. So
I got lucky. Mine, I just left it in the bag because I was so quick to open it. I was like, I gotta get it. Then I open it and I'm just like, ugh, you gotta be fucking kidding me.
Yeah, and I do like that Generations Classics Optimus. I know it's got the arm shields.
Yeah.
But, if besides that, I still think it's a pretty good figure, and I think it's held up because they were using, quality materials and, quality paint apps, and they're just not doing that now. So this 2-pack is just not worth your money.
Yeah.
I would definitely spend it on something else.
Yeah.
Spend it on your food or your kids.
Or your girlfriend or your wife.
Buy some quality Bandai figures.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, don't waste it on this shit. It's just not enough of the things that would make a good figure. Now, like I said, if you're a little kid, if you're buying this for a little kid, hey, give it to them. They're going to break it anyway. It's not going to last that long in the first place. So go ahead, give it to them. Maybe they'll like it. But, that's it for us. We're just going to move on to the next one.